We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today. Good evening, welcome along to nufc Matters. It is the Supermac and Gibbo show. How are you, lads?
I'm all good. Right, Steve, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Good to see you, lads. And even happier with the breaking news that Sandro Tonali is still on track for the August return. For those of you tuning in who haven't heard the news, Newcastle United midfielder Sandro Tonali has been given a suspended 2-month ban from competitive football by an independent regulatory commission after self-declaring breaches of FA betting rules. He's also been fined £20,000 and he's been warned by the FA to his future conduct. The banning period is fully suspended for the duration of the 24-25 season, which means he'll be available to return to competitive football upon the conclusion of an existing 10-month sanction, which was opposed by the Italian Football Federation on the 27th of October last year. Provided that he doesn't commit any further breach of the FA betting rules during the suspension period, Sandro will not serve any part of the 2-month sanction. As acknowledged by the FA in the Independent Regulatory Commission's written reasons, the level of assistance Sandro has provided by self-referring and fully cooperating with a subsequent investigation is extraordinary and unprecedented. Sandro made full admissions as to his betting activity and did so in circumstances where there was no other evidence to support misconduct proceedings. Sandro is continuing to follow a therapeutic plan and educational program with the club's full support and will continue to train with his teammates. And just a little summary of the bets that he put on follows that. His bets included 4 Newcastle games that he played in and 1 that he was on the bench for, backing his side to win in all cases. He also had an accumulator bet involving either Newcastle to beat Brighton on September the 2nd or Newcastle to beat Burnley on September the 30th. And an accumulator bet including Newcastle to beat Brentford on September the 16th. A single bet on Newcastle to beat Manchester City on September the 27th. And an accumulator bet including Newcastle to beat West Ham on October the 8th. So with no extension to his original ban, that leaves him free to resume his playing career on August the 27th. A big collective sigh of relief, Malcolm. We can now put this whole system behind us. This whole situation behind us.
Yeah, and the most pleased person will be Sandro Tonali because it's been a very, very long time for him to miss playing, and I just hope that he's kept his fitness at a real good height, and that it's almost over now for him, isn't it? Because I would imagine that he'll be training through most of the summer and get himself absolutely ready to go. He owes Newcastle United a huge amount. I think they've been very, very patient with him. They've been ultra non-critical, and so I think we're only going to see the best of him once we get to August.
Yeah.
John, it's been an unsavoury incident. When he arrived at the club, I've got to be honest, I remember saying on this channel to you guys, that he looked as if he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He didn't look happy. His wife looked happier than him to be arriving in Newcastle. I mean, it was clearly the weight of all of this he was carrying round, and one would hope in August we see someone with the weight lifted up his shoulders, playing the football which attracted Newcastle to sign him in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the decision today is concerned, you may remember, Steve, when you first brought this up with me weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago, when he was first charged by the English FA, I said that the word out on the grapevine to me then was that any finding of guilt would be concurrent with the current sentence he's got, because it was seen as one long episode, unbroken of a crime, if you like, in the football terms, because it dated back originally before AC Milan with Brezhnev, and it had continued as it would all his time in football. Because if you're not charged with something, if you don't think something's offence, what makes you think that the minute he leaves Italy, he'll stop doing it here? It's just when he left Brezhnev, he didn't stop doing it at AC Milan. It ran on as one long event. And so, because it was a different FA, English FA, because that's where the second lot happened, it had to be separate from the Italian, but it was always going to run concurrently with the Italian and not be stuck on the end. If, he's coming back in August, then he gets another X amount of time put on top of that. No, that wasn't going to happen, and neither should it have happened. I mean, the hope for now, I mean, I always got the impression, and I think this is what sparked Newcastle fans off, on his transfer, nothing put aside for the moment, this business about betting. When he come to Newcastle, I honestly, and there was no hint at all of any betting scandal to come out the woodwork or anything of that nature. I still thought he was quite unhappy to be here. He was leaving his boyhood heroes, AC Milan, who he'd lucky to got and signed for and had a wonderful time and won the title and everything. And he was leaving, and the feeling was that decision wasn't his. It was possibly because they needed cash, which is the way it was sold to us at the time. Cynics or theorists will suggest that the AC Milan knew this was coming up and so got rid. But the word at the time was AC Milan needed money with this financial fair play, and so they sold him to Newcastle. He looked reluctant to be here. He looked as if he was quite unhappy. I don't think this was on his mind as it happened, Steve, because I don't think he thought he was going to get caught. Because I don't think he actually realised he was doing anything wrong, because he's having a bet. That's so many footballers have done that. And in the old days, Stan Bowles did that the whole time, but they were never particularly investigated as something wrong. You bet on two raindrops dropping down the window, which one would reach the bottom first. I mean,
and he still never got it right, Ron.
No, he always finished second in the two-horse race, Stan. But that's the way it was. But I think that he was a little unhappy to be here. I always remember with stark shudders, really, when we played in AC Milan, and Sandro was put up at the press conference out there, and he spent the whole press conference talking in Italian to the Italian press, saying how his heart was always and always would be AC Milan, and they were great club and the times he'd had there. And I thought, Mikey Moses, this doesn't look great for us. And after a wonderful start against Aston Villa, I thought his form was very iffy until he stopped playing. He didn't look like a £52 million guy. And he looked like a well-smacked backside, didn't he? He looked terribly miserable with life. I think this will have refocused his life totally, his football life I'm talking about, not his private life, because that's fine as far as we know. His football life will have been refocused totally by this. He'll realise he's getting a huge second chance. He'll realise how good his new club's been to him. He's immersing himself in training. He's immersing himself in working with the boys every day on the training ground. And I think he will appreciate what's happened from him. Presumably, he has also improved his English as he is doing lessons as well on the troubles of gambling. He'll have improved his English, and I think he will come back a new guy, but not just because this is off his shoulders, but yes, that's so, but because he's realised this is a great move from him. He wasn't certain it was, and I can understand that. He had such a love of AC Milan, and if they went to him and said, "Look, Sandro, we've got to cash in on our biggest asset because we need some money. You're the biggest asset. You're going to have to go." Then he's going to have to go. And I think it was difficult for him when he come here. I think, ironically, this horrendous news and this horrendous ban he's got will have cleared his mind totally, and he can come back a very, very different person. And that's what I'm hoping we will see. And I'm hoping we will see a £52 million midfielder, because that's a lot of dough, and he will have produced something in the midfield if he lives up to his £52 million price tag. We'll have some player.
He voluntarily did reduce his wages, so Monkey Suit says, and that is true. I mean, it shows in the accounts, and rightly so, Malcolm. I mean, yes, the kid's done wrong, but I think that tells you where his mentality's at, Malcolm.
I think that was showing respect to Newcastle as a club, that he had only just sort of arrived, and all of a sudden he's suspended for a very long time, and so I think he's played the whole situation very straight indeed with Newcastle United. Just slightly changing it, I saw a comment that said, "Well, what's wrong with betting on your own side if you're betting on them to win?" Well, it doesn't mean to say, it still brings up all sorts of problems. It can affect the way you play. It can affect the way you treat your teammates. But I would go back to, I think, 1958, John, and I'm sure you'll remember this.
Yes, I do.
It was at Sheffield Wednesday, and they found half the side had been betting against Sheffield Wednesday to win.
Yeah, Peter Swan and Bronco Lane, and
that's right.
The big Peter Swan was a top England player.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Two were England internationals, for heaven's sake.
That was the
just
huge
banned for life.
The huge sensation at the time.
Yeah.
But as you say, what was significantly different, I think the bet on a few occasions, the bet on their own team losing.
That's right. And so I think what the football authorities said to themselves is, right, we say no betting whatsoever on the game, because then it can never be misunderstood, if you like. And I think that's absolutely right. Footballers must not bet on football. Go and bet on the horses, the dogs, rugby, whatever, cricket, but leave football alone. You're a professional within the game, and you should have the respect for the game, that it doesn't involve the mental games that gambling can create within people.
It's funny because other sports like boxing, Mark Byers made the point in the chat earlier about a fighter putting money on himself. And he also points out that Tonali didn't give himself up. He was reported on by another colleague, obviously for him to get a lesser sentence, if you like. But we're talking as if they're criminals. But in a lot of ways, it feels like that he has been on trial of sorts. But yeah, it is a bit strange, and it's a team game, football, John. I'm not trying to say that he's done the right thing here, but it's a team game. Tonali can't affect it. Wholly, whereas boxing, you can take a dive, can't you, John?
Oh, it's an individual is different from a team game, but the same has got to apply, because if you're betting against your side, which is what Peter Swan and all them are doing, you can just have a bad one.
Did Grobbelaar do that when he let 3 in against Newcastle at home? Did he bet against himself? I can't remember.
Well, he must have done, else he wouldn't have let 3 in if he was betting on Liverpool to win. So he must have bet,
so there's another. So there's that was a huge case. That was a huge case. That was like a.
Yes.
The Grobbelaar one.
Well, I wonder when I'd seen the game live and thinking back, I wondered how one of our shots made the goal because he dived spectacularly, but unfortunately out of the way. And I thought, how was that gone through? Can I have a look at that again? But that was a famous one. Yes, he was letting goals in because it was a team game. But you know, when there was this big thing in the 50s, because football's a big game and bookies try to nobble people, you always nobble the goalkeeper, the centre half, or the centre forward, because the goalkeeper and the centre half can let goals in pretty easily, and the centre forward can miss them. So they're the key positions where you know they can affect the outcome of a team game because you can miss goals. I mean, we see plenty centre forwards, of which I'm not going to name any, miss loads of goals, but that is just human nature, as opposed to any other way. But I'm very hopeful that Sandro will come back. I mean, and I tell you, the one thing that is absolutely certain is that you will get the 100% support of the whole St James's Park crowd when he comes back.
And also, John,
so.
I think the way that the club have treated him, I think, is that they've been absolutely brilliant.
They have,
very understanding, very supportive.
I mean, let's not be cynical, Malcolm, but you must be brilliant. It's a £52 million investment, for God's sake.
Yeah.
If you're not nice to him and he goes against you, you've just done your £52 million investment in. I mean, Brentford's been great. Ivan Toney, the Newcastle's been great. You haven't got much option, Malcolm, if you paid a fortune for a player. You've got to keep him on side. I mean, if you bring him in and say, you're swine, I don't want to see you for a year, you can go and train on the beach at Tyne and come back in a year's time. He's off going to do well for you, isn't he? I mean, you know, you've got to... But they have. They have.
I couldn't imagine Sir Alex Ferguson being so supportive if it had been one of his Man United players when he was managing.
Well, I tell you what, I think he would have been, Malcolm, and the reason I say that is because he was supportive of the biggest outrageous event I've ever seen, which is
Cantona, of
comes through kicking his supporter in the throat. And everybody said that's the finish of Cantona at Manchester United. And Fergie went over to France, had a private meal with the guy and persuaded him that he could sit out everything at Old Trafford and still be accepted by the crowd because he said he wouldn't be, etc., etc. Brought him back. And by Jove, it all turned out to be right because he won things for Manchester United after that. But that was harder to do with Cantona than it is to do this with Sandro Tonali because with Cantona, I mean, it was there for all to see. With Tonali, you're betting in your private time. Cantona's on a football field walking across and kicking his supporter in the throat. I mean, that was a tad savage, I felt at the time.
Mark Byers is trying to wind you guys up. He says, I just know Mal and Gibbo are going to think that Chris Wood betted on himself not to score for us.
No, I never thought of Chris Wood. Who's mentioned Chris Wood?
Mark Byers.
I mean, I know how Chris Wood scores goals at St James's Park because I saw it with Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, but did you see the 2 he missed against Man City? Oh, my word.
I did.
Andy, I just want to confirm, Andy's asking, how do we know that he took a wage reduction? Les has said it's in the documentation from the FA decision statement. That's where it's come from. I have seen a report on it, but it has been confirmed that he did take a wage reduction. So, yes, that is confirmed. Okay, let's look back at last weekend's game, lads. Sheffield United. It was a game of two halves, Malcolm, because, I think we all predicted a win on this show last week of different types of wins, but I had a little tinge of nervous energy going into the the first half, and it proved to be correct. I mean, we could have been 3 or 4-1 down, but then the second half, Newcastle came out and did what they should have done from the start, and that was, just demolish Sheffield United and send them packing back to the Championship. But it was certainly a proverbial game of two halves.
It certainly was, but I think though that it was the perfect example of what Newcastle have been this season, that they can play absolutely awful and finish up scoring 5 in a game. They can score when they're not playing well, and that I think is one hell of a strength to have, because you can't play well all of the time. Sheffield United, I thought some of their football through the middle, the breakaways, the long runs that players made on the ball, I thought was absolutely terrific for them. But where we've just been talking of Chris Wood missing, Sheffield Wednesday have caught the same bug as him. Sheffield United. They struggled to score. They got the first one, but by heavens, yes, they could have been 4 up at half time.
It's what you say, Malcolm. It's what you say. And what Steve said, we say Sheffield United could have been 4 up at half time. What we're presuming by that is what any average side would do. Sheffield United were never going to be 4 up at half time. You know why? Because they've scored the lowest goals in the Premier League all season. That's why. They miss chances all the time. They miss them all the time. And you know why they got beat 5? Because they let them in all the time as well. So they played their usual game. They missed a lot of chances, then got absolutely hammered 5-1. It's 13-1 on aggregate over our 2 matches with Sheffield United.
I know.
13-1. That's how bad they are, my friend. 13-1 is the average. So when they keep missing, if any other side had missed chances like that at St James's, I would have said, "Oh dear me, we're in for it, right?" Or we've got off the hook. But no, the amazing thing was that they scored the one. They missed chances all the time, and they let a barrel load in. They're about 3 goals off letting in 100 this season in the Premier League now. They are awful. They are awful. And they're so awful that we could play as badly as we did in the first half and still beat them 5-1.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a confidence booster, isn't it? When you're not playing well, but you're making chances, sticking them in the net. That's a great thing to take out on the park with you, I think.
Yeah, you're right, Mal. The only thing that you're absolutely right, Malcolm. But the only thing that worries me now is that we're going away on Saturday and we're going away 3 times out the next 4. And away from home, we don't make chances and we get beat. Because that is the great worry for us. I mean, this year, not this season, this year, 2024, the only away game off the top of my head I've really enjoyed is when we in the league is when we went to Villa and won 3-1. Warm at Madison. The rest of the time we look awful. Even when we won 1-0 at Fulham, we were played off the park for a long time.
Weren't we just? Yes.
Weren't we, Malcolm? We were played off the park for a long time.
And they just couldn't stick it in the net, could they, Fulham?
No. Away from home, Malcolm, we are awful. In the league, away from home, we're awful. And that has got to be put right very, very quickly, because 3 of the next 4 are away. 3 of the last 4 are away. So I think I mentioned it on this program last week, guys, but for me, we've just won 5-1. That's great. But I said before the game with Sheffield United, when we hammer them, because we're always going to, it doesn't mean everything's all right again.
No,
it means
it doesn't.
We've managed to hammer a bad side. Now, I don't think what happens on the training ground this week, or what has happened, is the most important thing. I think what's happened in the training ground dressing room before they've gone out for training or after training, where he sat them down and talked to them, is more important. He doesn't. If Newcastle don't know how to defend now, most of the players have been here 2 seasons. If they don't know how to score goals, if they don't know how to dominate the middle park, then it is too late to tell them, because we're only 4 matches off the end of the season. What they've got to get right is the head, so they're in the right frame of mind. They're in where they've become desperate Dan. They've become Popeye after he's had his spinach. They don't become weaklings, they become the tough guy. They're determined to make it happen, because I tell you what, the one thing Burnley will match us on is courage and attitude and application.
And they will be fighting and scrapping, John, yes.
Yeah, they'll match us on that. They can't match us on ability, man for man. That's why they're in the bottom 2 and we are in the top 7. But they can match us on courage and determination and spirit. And if we don't match them on that, we lose. If we do match them on that, we win.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Steve, that Burnley, they've got it's a difficult but intriguing run-in that they have. That they've got Newcastle obviously at home, then they've got Tottenham away.
Yeah.
But then the final game of the season for them is that they're at home to Nottingham Forest, which is the only side at the moment that they can possibly catch.
The fixtures have been so... When you look at how it all worked out this season, at the top and the bottom, it's been amazing. The bottom though is frightening. Some amazing fixtures, and Everton have done the impossible: points reductions and getting out of it. It's an incredible, great escape for Sean Dyche. Deserves a lot of praise for that. Before we go to the ads, just wanted to say, just as a one-off, every now and then we do go live, obviously on YouTube every week, but we go live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter as well. So 414 watching tonight live, which is a big figure for us on a Thursday. We tend to average around about 250 live and about 2,500 people, 3,000 people who watch in total during the week. But if you are watching on a different social media platform, please consider jumping onto YouTube after the show is finished and subscribing to the channel. We are only 44 away from hitting the magic 52,000 subscribers mark, which is quite incredible. We're almost at capacity for St. James.
We're matching Newcastle United, are we?
We are, yes. We'll have a little break. We will wet our whistle and we'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk, telephone 01768 210 102, or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave a virtual donation today. And don't forget, Supermac and Gibbo will be at the Irish Centre on the 20th of July in aid of Dementia Matters. And Ask George will be on stage as well as the Long Sands doing an acoustic set, 5 o'clock till late. Tickets at tenner from nufcmatters.com or newcastlelegends.com. If you can't make it, you can still buy a ticket as the proceeds are going, as I say, to Dementia Matters. Rob Lee's announced a show at the City Hall, and that is Friday the 2nd of August. And tickets are available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And the entertainers are getting back together on the 24th of January next year. Tickets available from the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. Get yourselves onto their website to book tickets for that today. And don't forget, I've still got a month to go with these two lunatics, Rai and Ted, on a morning. The North East Footy Brekkie Show has been running all season. It's live on Toon Radio, weekdays 7 till 9 on DAB, smart speakers, and the toonuk.com. Been a cracking laugh with those lads. We've got a month left of the football season, all in to talk about it. We're having a 2 months sabbatical, but we will be back next season, which is great news, which is a big credit to the lads for keeping it going. And we've had a good laugh anyway. Want to ask one of the greatest strikers in our club's history, Malcolm MacDonald, does he think Isak can join him in that kind of place in our history? He's had 1 3/4 great seasons. Probably would have been even better if he hadn't been injured. And he's chasing the Premiership leading goal scorer title. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts, Malcolm? I mean, I did have to pull somebody this week, by the way, because on the show, people celebrating the fact that Callum Wilson's gone. He's gone second alongside Peter Beardsley in the goal scoring charts. That's the Premier League. The real goal scoring charts are when the club started in 1892. But just a reminder, Alan Shearer's top with 206 league goals. Jackie Milburn second on 201. The great Len White, 153 goals, is in third place. Hughie Gallagher is in fourth place on 143. And Malcolm MacDonald is in fifth place on 121. Just behind him is Peter Beardsley on 121 as well. So, Malcolm, what's your thoughts on Alexander Isak? Do you think he can get to that level?
I do, if he stays long enough at the club. These days, with the money that's floating in the game, that if somebody is really turning it on, as Isak has been doing, then the big boys are all having a good look. And he is a silky smooth type of footballer that would suit, I think, probably any club. He's got such a lovely turn of pace. He's got fabulous ball control and dribbling abilities. I've seen him do some things I've never seen before, so he is not only a joy to watch, he's a joy to play with. And so, how long will he be at Newcastle? I was here for 5 seasons exactly, and will Isak be at the club for as long as 5 seasons? I'm really not sure.
John, this is an interesting one, and I'm sure you're the same as me. I really can't stand it when people just talk about the Premier League as if football didn't exist before that. And I tell you what, when I was going down that list this week, making my point, I actually ended up reading out the top 25. And I was really surprised to see Bobby Mitchell in there with 113 goals in 7th place. Pop Robson, of course, 97. George Robledo, who I've always just thought is a maker of goals, not a taker of goals. 91 in 9th place. And this is a surprise. In 10th place, Shola Ramiobi on 79. That's crazy. What's your thoughts on Alexander Isak? Can he reach the heights?
Yeah, I mean, he will unquestionably reach the heights. We want to make certain it's with us. Unless he has a bad injury, he will reach the heights of football. There's absolutely no question. The question has got to be, because we were talking why he might end up in the pecking order of our goal scorers over 130 years, whether he will be here long enough. Now, my information right now, as we speak, is that Newcastle are busy preparing with his people a long-term contract at a great increase in salary. And so there should be, by the way. But that will send out a message to other people that we are not a selling club, which we were under Ashley. We're a building club. And we have got to send that message out, because if these Saudi owners are serious about taking us regular Champions League silverware, and I don't doubt for 1 second they're serious, then you don't sell Alexander Isak. You don't sell your top goal scorer. You don't sell your best goal scorer. Where do you find another? And by the way, they won't get the next one for 60 million like they got Isak. To get somebody as good as Isak, they'll have to spend 120 million, because that is the rates going up every year. And Newcastle are busy talking to his people, I'm told, about a new contract. And I think the announcement will come very, very shortly. And it'll put to bed any suggestion there is that we are a selling club instead of a buying club. And that is what really irritates me. You know how you're irritated, Steve, about, before the Premier League, nothing existed. Tell you what irritates me, because this is the club of my heart, and this is the biggest club in the world as far as I'm concerned, and as far as every other Geordie's concerned. What irritates me is they keep saying, well, you lose Isak to a big club. Hey, wake up. He's at a big club. Please wake up. He's now at a big club. Stop telling me, what are we going to lose him to Aston Villa because they're above us in the table at this given moment? Do me a flipping favour. Are they going to lose him to Spurs, who sink out of sight at any time there's a drafty win because somebody's left the door open? I mean, is Liverpool guaranteed once Klopp goes? There's only Man City guaranteed, and they have a bloke called Haaland. I mean, he is at a big club. This guy has now got 19 Premier League, as we speak tonight, 19 Premier League goals this season, which has taken him above Wilson's 18 of last season. He's got 23 all in, and he's already good enough to be challenging the greatest goal scorer we've ever had, Alan Shearer, who as long ago as 2003, 2004, the last great goal scoring season for an individual, scored 22 Premier League goals. This lad's got 19 with 4 games to go. He can challenge Alan's 22 there, and he might struggle to challenge Alan's overall total that season because it was 28 and he's got 23 at the moment. That's going to be difficult. But to be talking about him matching the super season of somebody like Alan Shearer is quite something. And you know what this guy is? This guy, he almost looks like a midfield player as well as a striker, combined in one. He's so silky smooth. When he plays, he is not just an explosive finisher like, say, Alan was. He's a silky smooth in the build-up. He can play outside left. He can play centre forward. You could imagine him playing midfielder. Oh, what a waste that would be with the sort of skills he's got. He is absolute quality. And if we are going to get into Europe in the next 4 games, we're looking to him to do the business. Because when I tell you how many goals he's got in matching Shearer from 2003 to 4, as you mentioned earlier, Steve, this is a guy who was out injured for a big chunk earlier in the season.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, John. It's not just the chunk that you miss, but it takes quite a while to get back into the swing of things.
Spot on, as you would know, an ex-player yourself. You don't come back after missing 8 or 9 games. You don't come back and hit the ground, silky smooth. You've got to build back up. This guy has done that, and he is terrific. He's going to get his reward from Newcastle. He should look around him, see how Bruno is delighted to be here, going out and spending money on a lovely little rabbit hutch in Ponteland or wherever it is. Well done him. £4 million thing. He's not going to be leaving too quickly, I would hope, when he's doing that. Look at Joe Linton signing a new long-term contract. Isak follows the same way. It puts out a message. Don't come, you vultures, looking for easy pickings from us because you're not going to get them. If we've got to sell to cooperate with financial fair play, then the way it is structured, we aren't in dire need of selling a big hitter for 100 million, like having to sell Bruno or having to sell Isak, because we aren't that close to great debt. If we sell Almiron for 20 million, or whatever, or Callum Wilson, we will then be well, if we do that before June the 30th, which is the cut-off point for financial fair play for the last financial year. If we do that, we are well within our target. We don't have to sell £100 million guy. If we do a deal for Miguel Almiron, and I'm using him merely as an example, if he goes to Saudi and we do a deal there, we're cooking. So we don't need to. You keep your good players and you add better players. And by the way, the Saudis haven't come in this to be also vans.
Nope, they've come in to be
winners.
Oh,
absolutely.
And that's just an update on Fabian Schär, John. Somebody asked in the chat earlier on, I think it was who was it? There was somebody anyway asked, is there any news? That was Stephen Kennedy right at the start. Any news on Fabian Schär?
Not conclusive. He's had tests. They're looking at the result of tests. What I hope with Fabian, and I really hope he plays, not just because he's a very good player, because he's our only ever present in what's been a horrendous season, and he deserves to go through his ever present with only 4 matches left, rather than the cursed injury take him out right at the death. That is I'm told that is the only piece of team news that remains to be solved. That the team will be unchanged as long as Shaw is fit to play. If he's not, I guess Emil Kraft would come in there again. But I think the game will be a bit too. We never know, because we don't know after the press conference on the Friday morning, because Eddie is craftier than a box of snakes. He doesn't tell you anything at all. He keeps everything up his sleeve. But unless there's something we don't know, either a player being injured in training this week or somebody getting off his bed and nails and making a miraculous recovery, it could be too early for people like Trippier and people like Joe Linton and Pope, who were hoping to get back. Almiron may make the bench. He won't make the team, because for 2 reasons. First, he's been out too long, and when you have been out, you're introduced again from the bench. And secondly, why would he get in the team ahead of the wingers we've got at the moment? Because on one side, you've got Gordon, who's untouchable, and on the other side, you've got Harvey Barnes or Jacob Murphy. So he's not needed in the starting lineup, but he can help the bench. And he's a possibility on the bench to sit alongside Callum Wilson. But I don't think the other guys will be back this weekend. So there's only Shaw to be decided.
Trippier's in Dubai. He looks like he'll be back for the Brighton game, which is great. He's doing a little bit of extra training out there with a specialist. So good stuff. Tattoos is quickly on the agenda. Lewis Miley celebrated his 18th birthday yesterday by getting one in North Shields. He got it on his arm. And somebody asked us the question, given Miley's recent tattoo, does Gibbo have a similar one of dreaming of being a journalist as a kid and then making it big time at the Chronicle?
Well, I think that would be an over-ambitious target for myself, to be truthful. I don't think I can think of myself as possibly being able to make it big at the Chronicle. But I mean, whatever Lewis does is okay by me, because he's from great stock, etc., etc. But I am told it's possibly the worst tattoo anybody has ever seen in their life.
It's not bad. Honestly, I can tell you, it's not bad. It's
But by the way, when you say not bad, they're supposed to be good, you know. You don't pay for a tattoo for it to be not bad.
He's gone and asked for a design, and he's got what he wanted, and he's happy, and that's all that matters. He's the one who's got to live with it. I have seen some horrendous tattoos. I saw a brilliant one today, actually, that a Sunderland fan had got. and he posted that he was over the moon getting it, and it had been spelled Sudderland, Sutherland. So there's a lot worse. There's an Alan Shearer one which has kicked around for years as well, which somebody got on their back, which looks like the kid from the Goonies. So believe you me, in terms of tattoos, and I've got 4. It's not bad, lads. It's not bad.
Well, if they're not bad, I want to see yours because I've seen.
I'm not stripping off for you, Matt. I'm not stripping off for anyone on this channel.
That's not a tattooed beard, is it? Because
it's not. Okay, we're going to move swiftly on. And somebody asked a question to me. I don't get many questions. I don't get much chance to speak on this show, to be honest. A question to you, Steve. With all this talk of Isak's transfer fee, what would Malcolm cost these days? I'm going to say, because I think the club probably value Alexander Isak at about, they probably think he's doubled in price or trebled in price. So let's say Alexander Isak's worth 120 million. I'm going to put an extra 20 on top of that for Malcolm if he was playing these days. So I'm going to say Malcolm McDonald would be worth 140 million pounds this day
I think that's fair. And honestly, I think that's terrific for a bloke of his age to be worth as much money as that.
Well, I've also got to bear in I've got to bear in mind as well that with him doing this podcast, that me and you have got to get 5% each, John, of the sell-on fee.
Well, naturally. So I think
can I have 10% of that, Steve? Now.
By the way, if we get 5% each, I'll have a tattoo of Malcolm McDonald on the end of my nose. I'll be that thrilled.
Mark Bayer says Mal would be worth 80 to 120 million. There you go. And Mag Debate says Malcolm must have a Gordon Lee tattoo. I'm only joking, he says. So I don't know.
No, he has. Oh, yes, he has. Yes.
Don't tell us where it is. On his backside. I knew you were going to say
on his backside, yes.
Mark's got a question for Malcolm. He says, Mal, if your time as a player was now, would you be one of those pulling their socks over their knees and wearing gloves in April? Somehow I can't see it myself.
No. I preferred to have my socks low. And once I got to Arsenal, because I'd always sort of had them up to the knee with tie-ups, keeping them up. But it became Arsenal were a little more lax in what they allowed, and they were quite happy for me to go out with socks almost down. So and I didn't wear shin pads then, you get to a stage in the game, sort of in your later 20s, that you can pretty much see everything coming, and you're not going to get caught, and that was the case. But as you get older, and I'm looking at Isak with interest, because I think that his game is actually more mature than his age, and so he is just going to get better and better and better, and he's going to finish up in a couple of seasons a phenomenal player. Absolute wonderful skills. They are silky smooth, and up to now, and I really do mean this, he has done things I've never seen anybody else do. And so I just so enjoy watching him, but it would be even better to play with him. I'm quite jealous of Gordon and what have you, having that opportunity to play with Isak.
Yep, 309 watching on YouTube, 536 watching across all the platforms tonight. If you're on another platform, please subscribe to the channel. We do 7 free Newcastle United podcasts a week, well worth joining. Okay, we're going to look in the last part of the show at the game at the weekend. Newcastle travelling to Burnley, and it's a 3:00 kickoff on Saturday. Vincent Kompany in charge of the Clarets. Eddie Howe returning to his former club. and he's taking charge of his 100th Premier League game this weekend for Newcastle United, and he's looking for his 49th victory. In the other games, 25 draws and 26 defeats. It makes him Newcastle United's second most successful manager in the Premier League, just behind Kevin Keegan. Miggy Almiron, as John mentioned, is back with the senior squad after injury and has been seen training this week. There's no news yet on Fabian Schär after he was withdrawn at half-time last weekend. There is increasing optimism that Joe Linton is closing in a return after being out since January. Kieran Trippier, as I mentioned, is training in Dubai, but he is hoping that he is going to be back for the Brighton game. We are without Willock, Miley, Target, Tonali, Botman, Lascelles. Nick Pope's availability at the moment is unclear. And if Tumini keeps his place this weekend, Martin Dubravka will make his 150th Premier League appearance for Newcastle. And incidentally, Dan Burn is one game away from completing 100 games for Newcastle United. Where has the time gone? Referee this weekend, Anthony Taylor. It's his fourth Newcastle game of the season. All of them have been away from home. He took charge of the 2-2 draw at Wolves, the 4-2 defeat at Liverpool, and the 3-2 away win at Nottingham Forest. And on VAR this weekend, it is John Brooks. So, Malcolm, we mentioned a little bit earlier, we're going down there. It's all to play for Burnley, but we've been here before. We relegated them a couple of seasons ago, didn't we? The last time they were in the Premier League, we sent them down on the last game of the season. We're facing a slightly tougher team this time round, but they don't have the greatest home form. They've hit a little bit of good form now, but this really should be a game where Newcastle are too strong for them.
Well, yes, it should be. Also, you were mentioning the poor goal scoring record of Sheffield United. Burnley's as bad. I think they might have scored about 4 goals more this season. So goals are very, very difficult for them to come by, and that's completely the opposite for us. And I mentioned it earlier on in the program that the beauty about Newcastle is they can play badly but still be dangerous and score goals.
Yeah,
and that's a treasurable thing to have in your locker, and so I'm expecting Newcastle to keep a clean sheet, and that they will net, even if they're not playing that well. It's going to be, I think, a bit of a bruising game at times. Burnley, they can put it about a bit physically, so Newcastle have got to be prepared for that. And what I would hate to see, just for this last final bit of the run-in, that we get any further injuries. We are down to sort of bare bones almost at the moment. So, but I'm pretty sure that Newcastle can win this game. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a scrap. But then that's how it always is when you're playing the sides at the bottom who are fighting relegation. So we've got to win the scraps, and then we can go and win the game.
Prediction, Mal?
My prediction, I think we'll win the game 1-0.
Okay, I'm going to go 3-1 to Newcastle, and I'm going to go with Andy Ford. Isak to get his first hat-trick of the season. John?
Mm-hmm.
He's been close often enough. He's had a lot of twos, hasn't he? He's had a lot of twos. I mean, if I can just put a little voice of caution, Burnley are second bottom by all things that are saying Newcastle win. And as I said, if we match them on courage, application and desire, we win because we've got the better players. But we often away from home, we don't match teams on that. We've lost 10 out of 16. I have been so upset week after week after week after week of being optimistic before an away game and then finding it's like the Crystal Palace game, the last one we had. We've lost 10 out of 16 away. The only reason You know what? We've lost 10 out of 16 away. If we'd had last season's away form, we would be in the Champions League again this season. We would, because our home record is tremendous. We've got one of the top, I think we're third, one of the top home records in the Premier League. But we're 15th out of 20 away from home in the away from home league. We've lost 10 out of 16, which is awful. Burnley have got a little bit of form that's give them a tiny hope. They've won 2 and drawn 5 of the last 8. That means they've only lost 1 out of the last 8, which is not for a team second bottom. That's good going. You know, that is a decent record. There's people that have said to me, and I think this could be right, and this sounds ludicrous when we're going to go away and play the team that's second bottom, but this could be the hardest match of our running. Why do I say that? Well, it's followed by Brighton at home, and once we're at home, we're as safe as houses, and also their season's imploded. Have you seen their results recently? They've been losing 3 and 4. The manager's in despair. Their season's imploded. Yeah. Then we'll go to Manchester United, who are flaky. Home or away, Manchester United are flaky. They can win, but they can equally get beaten. And then on the last day, we'll go to Brentford, who will have nothing to play for on the last day, and we'll probably have plenty to play for.
And they're having a stinker, aren't they?
Yeah, so this could be the hardest test. And win this, and we set ourselves up because of the mood, etc. That the 3-match run in, we're home to Brighton, and then 2 away games. We set it up. Lose and surrender like we did at Crystal Palace, and the mood will be awful because we know we'll beat Brighton, or we believe we know we'll beat Brighton. But we've then got 2 away games that we'll worry about if we've lost to Burnley, having lost to Crystal Palace. So I think it's a huge, huge, huge match for Newcastle. Can they win it? Of course they can win it. Should they win it? Of course they should win it. But I've got a feeling it'll be a draw, you know. I've just got a feeling, and I hope I'm wrong, because, hey, it could be worse. We could flip and lose. We did at Crystal Palace, and we'll have it 10 times this season away from home. We ought to win. There's no question. But I sat here a couple of weeks ago, guys, before we played Crystal Palace. We had 10 points out of 12. We're going to play Crystal Palace, or now to play for, or we'll win down there. We'll just go out, we'll do the business, we'll come home, we'll win. We never got a kick.
This has got a different feel about it, John. Prediction, John? You're
1-1. Why has it a different feel about it, Steve?
I don't know. It's just me personally. I think it's got a different feel.
It hasn't got a different feel about it for me. All the optimism I've had on all the away games, this has got a different feel about it. I'm sick of being optimistic and.
I was doubtful about Palace. I'm not doubtful about this. I've seen Burnley quite a bit this season as well. I genuinely think we've got more chance. But listen, I would take a draw, but would need Man United to slip up. That's the difference. We need Man United to slip up. But away form's got to change sometime. We've got some attacking players. Eddie, be brave. Go for Gordon, Wilson, and Isak to start up front, and that's the winning formula. Prediction from you, John?
May I say as well, Steve, just in finishing, if we show we've got guts, if we show we've got application, and if we show we want Europe bad enough, we win.
Okay.
So do that, guys. Do players, not Eddie, players, show that, guys, and we win. Remember, you stand before the away support at the end of every away game, and they are magnificent. They support you come hell or high water. They support you whatever the result and applaud you. Stand before them at Burnley with pride.
There's the rallying call, lads. I hope Eddie gets the message, and the lads. Let's hope it's a winning result. Thanks for everybody watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We'll see you next week. Take care, Supermac. Take care, Gibbo.
Indeed. Let's have a good weekend, everyone.
All the best.